The Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference is coming to Dallas, Texas, February 16, 17, and 18 in 2018. If you know of a better way to get the latest insider knowledge about crypto, to hear directly from the top minds in this field, to interact personally with 800 fellow crypto lovers, hodlers, investors, miners, traders, developers, and founders, then I'd like to hear about it. If you don't, then you don't want to miss out. Register today for the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference. Go to bitcoinsuperconference.com and register today as a super early bird to get the lowest rates on tickets and hotel rooms. That's bitcoinsuperconference.com.
Welcome to Almost Here, Round the Corner Future Technology Podcast with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies poised to transform our lives for better or worse are the focus of this podcast. Almost Here means these technologies are now here and starting to be used, or just around the corner, from Bitcoin to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Future Tech Podcast. My name is Chris Amsler. Our guest today is Max Lyadvinsky with Bloomio.com. Welcome, Max.
Thank you. And let me introduce myself. I actually was a co-founder of some startup in 2000. It was a small startup of 4 guys, and we started thinking what to do. We had several ideas, and in the end, we decided to go into system software development area. So we created a backup product, and that startup started to grow pretty quickly. And now this is multi-hundred million international company. So once startup was growing, I started to sell my stakes in this startup to venture capital guys, and I met several venture capital guys. And these guys actually provided this or another type of questions about our startups. So in the end, we and our team learned how to answer these questions. So what is important for venture capital guys. And at some point, I exited that company, and we with some other friends started to think what to do next. At that point of time, venture capital guys, some of venture firms came to me asking to help them to do due diligence of other startups. So then I spent time doing due diligence of other startups. And at some point, I finished executive MBA. And when we finished executive MBA with my classmates, we thought, what if we create our own venture capital fund? And then we started to look at this idea, thinking how to differentiate our venture capital fund from many other funds. And then we found an idea. What if we use crowd money to grow seed stage startups to some point when they become interesting for a venture capital fund? And finally, we looked into this idea and finally decided, great, let's think about this crowdfunding platform.
Typically in the venture capital world, when I think of it, I think of large stakes investors. Is that similar with Bloomio, or is it open to anyone that wants to come in?
With Bloomio, it is different in a sense that it could be a very minor, very small ticket size, starting from $50. This is our target to invite crowd investing into startups, and this is true. This is unusual to fund startup for equity with this small ticket size. But at the same time, we do have some competitors here in this area. We have several companies doing crowdfunding, and this is why we've created our differentiation. We decided to create a system when for a startup we will look like a venture capital fund. So startup comes to us and in the end, in the cap table of that startup, they will have just one line Bloomio. And Bloomio, once it has the stake in a startup, will issue crypto tokens representing these startup shares. And here we can probably discuss a little bit more about crypto tokens. Our tokens will be real securities. We do not want to explain anyone that our tokens are not securities, because usually this is what blockchain companies do today. When they raise ICO, initial coin offering, they try to explain that their own coins are not securities. But in our case, we do agree our tokens are securities, and we will do all this legal paperwork required to get licenses to do this kind of operations.
Now, tell us more about how the tokens work with venture capital. Let's say a company comes in and they're using Bloomio. Tell me the incentive of the token that you offer.
For example, a startup wants to raise, let's say, $200,000 for 10% of their stake. A startup comes to Bloomio, and Bloomio then shows the startup to everyone, to crowd investors. Investors can commit starting from $50 into the startup. And once all the $200,000 amount is committed, then Bloomio is a company invest this money into startup, and Bloomio at the same time create crypto tokens. Let's say one token is equal to $1 invested into this particular startup. So we will have a total 200,000 tokens, and these tokens are distributed between crowd investors. And now crowd investors, they have some tokens that they can either keep or they can start trading them in our secondary marketplace that we will introduce as well. So
when they go to, let's say they're going to trade these tokens in your marketplace, mm-hmm. What's the big benefit of doing that versus keeping the token?
Benefit is if, for example, you do not wait for 5 to 7 years until a startup goes IPO or will be acquired by another company. You can have this liquidity. You are free to sell your stake in 1 year or even in 1 month after you've participated in this crowdfunding. So this is just flexibility for you. It gives you some liquidity. You can sell whenever you want. So
investors and startups aren't tied into to a really long schedule. They can immediately use those tokens for liquidity to move things around. Is that right?
For investors, they can trade that like probably normal shares on stock market. Liquidity will be lower comparing to stock market because the number of participants, at least in the beginning, will be smaller. But for example, if you have say 10 tokens, you can go to secondary market and say that you want to sell these 10 tokens for $12, and then if anyone agrees with you, they can buy these tokens. So this is how it will work for investors. For a startup, the startup itself will not feel that in their legal paperwork, because we proxy startup from all this complexity. Startup still has just one investor. This investor will be Bloomio, but startup will need to provide and to report some KPIs about the activities, and these KPIs will be shown to all investors so that they understand where this particular startup goes.
What kind of problems have you encountered so far, and what unique solutions have you come up with in the unique venture capital world, Bloomio?
The main problem today, I wouldn't say problem, but the challenge today is regulation, because right now a lot of blockchain solutions are in some gray zone, and this zone is not clear and is not regulated. For example, in the United States, SEC they do not regulate yet these crypto tokens like securities, and the same as for Europe. We started in Europe right now in Switzerland, and we are in discussion with a local regulator, FINMA, in Switzerland, and we try to explain them our business case, our scenarios, and our cash flows. And the regulators try to find licenses that can cover our activities. But this process is the challenge, because we do not have some ready solutions here.
In terms of regulation, I guess related to 2017, if you look at the growth of cryptocurrency by itself, 2018 seems like it's going to be a year of a lot of regulatory statements. What do you see? You mentioned Europe and you mentioned the U.S. with SEC, and we're dealing with, of course, a global currency here. How do you see nations working together in the regulatory field related to cryptocurrency?
First of all, the problem here is that the nature of cryptocurrency is actually against the government, because cryptocurrency wants to be independent on any government. Therefore, this is the main complexity here. If you want this cryptocurrency to be regulated, probably in this case you do not need this cryptocurrency at all. Yeah.
With Bloomio, what do you see in terms of your growth in the next year or two?
In our growth, what I would like to underline here, that blockchain itself is interesting not only for cryptocurrency. Blockchain itself is very interesting for reducing the paperwork that normally is required to do some things. For example, in our case of crowdfunding, without blockchain, we might have, say, 1,000 investors. And to do paperwork with these 1,000 investors is just not realistic. But if we use public register on blockchain, and if you use smart contracts, software contracts that do all the job instead of paperwork, in this case, we can have a lot of investors easily. So in the future, I think blockchain will become essential for many areas, many industries where you can reduce paperwork, moving your contracts to software contracts, to smart contracts on blockchain. This could be the key future for Bloomio as well, because together with other companies, we try to create new industries that will be more scalable and will be easier and will be transparent. And these industries will disrupt the current industries like venture capital or probably logistics or other similar stuff.
Very good. Any final thoughts before we wrap today?
Just I would like to thank you very much for your time and for your interest in Bloomio. While we haven't launched that yet crowdfunding campaigns, since we are in active development at the moment, we are a startup ourselves, but we already can accept startups and investors on our platform in some waiting mode when they can register with themselves and observe how we are going. So anyone is welcome to our website. Meanwhile, I'd like to wish a happy birthday to you once again. And thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Max. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Listen to the Future Tech Podcast. My name is Chris Amsler, and our guest today was Max Lyadvinsky with Bloomio.com. Thanks again, Max.
The Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference is coming to Dallas, Texas, February 16, 17, and 18 in 2018. If you know of a better way to get the latest insider knowledge about crypto, to hear directly from the top minds in this field, to interact personally with 800 fellow crypto lovers, hodlers, investors, miners, traders, developers, and founders, then I'd like to hear about it. If you don't, then you don't want to miss out. Register today for the Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Blockchain Super Conference. Go to bitcoinsuperconference.com and register today as a super early bird to get the lowest rates on tickets and hotel rooms. That's bitcoinsuperconference.com.
You have been listening to Almost Here, Around the Corner Future Technology podcast with Richard Jacobs. Subscribe to this podcast, post a review to discover more future technologies that are poised to transform our lives for better or worse, such as Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.